The Hall of Stars was silent. It was not the silence of peace, but the silence of judgment. 1,000 glowing lights floated across the chamber, showing faces of kings, warlords, princes, and rulers from every corner of the galaxy. They had all gathered for one reason: to witness the request of a tiny alien princess. She stood at the center of the hall, small in height, fragile in body, but wrapped in a gown made of shimmering starlight. Her skin glowed faintly like silver glass, and her eyes burned with quiet fire. She looked young, too young to carry such a heavy crown, but every movement she made carried the weight of an empire. The princess raised her voice. "I stand before you all," she said. Her words echoed, strong but shaking. "My people are dying. My empire is collapsing. I need a protector, a partner, one who will stand beside me." Her words fell into the silence like stones dropped into a bottomless pit. No one answered. Then, slowly, one alien prince stepped forward. His scales glistened in green, his chest broad, his eyes cruel. He studied her for a moment. Then he laughed a loud, mocking sound that echoed against the walls. "I would rather marry death itself than tie my name to you," he spat. He turned his back, his cloak snapping like a whip, and walked away. The princess lowered her eyes, but she did not cry. She was used to this. Another alien male stepped forward. His body was tall and thin, with long fingers that curled like claws. He leaned close to her, whispering so the crowd could hear, "Your blood is cursed. Your throne is broken. Any who stand beside you will fall into ruin. Do you think we are fools?" He sneered and left her standing alone. The whispers grew louder. Across the chamber, rulers muttered and laughed. Some turned their faces away. Others shook their heads in disgust. One by one, more came forward, only to reject her. A beast man with tusks snarled, "Your empire will rot, and I will not rot with it." A winged warrior hissed, "You carry death wherever you walk." A crystal lord clicked his many jaws. No male of worth would ever bind himself to such doom. The words cut like blades. The princess stood still, holding her chin high, but inside she felt her heart sink lower and lower. With every rejection, she could feel the shadows around her growing heavier. She knew what the galaxy believed, that she was cursed, that her very existence brought ruin. And yet, she had dared to hope that someone, anyone, would stand beside her. But hope was fading fast. The chamber fell silent once again. The last of the alien males had stepped away. None remained, none except one figure, standing quietly in the shadows. He was not a prince. He was not a lord. He was not even from a species considered powerful. He was human. His name was Marcus. He had been standing at the back of the hall, watching in silence as the mighty and proud turned their backs on the small princess. He had seen the way her eyes flickered when she was insulted, the way her hands trembled slightly though she tried to hide it. And he had seen something no one else seemed to notice. The fear. Not her fear, but theirs. Every alien male who rejected her carried fear in his eyes. Not just scorn, not just pride, fear. They wanted nothing to do with her, not because she was weak, but because there was something dangerous about her, something they did not dare face. Marcus narrowed his eyes. What secret did this tiny princess hold that made the galaxy tremble? The chamber expected him to leave as well. He was, after all, just a human, a newcomer to the stars, from a small, unimportant world. To them, he was nothing. But Marcus did not leave. He took a slow step forward. The sound of his boots echoed in the vast silence. The alien rulers turned their heads, their faces showing disbelief. The princess lifted her eyes, startled. For the first time in her life, someone was not walking away. The entire hall seemed to hold its breath. The alien kings whispered among themselves, "Does he not know the curse? Has he lost his mind? A human. Impossible." Marcus reached the center of the chamber. He stood before the princess, looking down at her. His voice was calm, steady, and clear. "I only have one question," he said. "Do you want me to stay?" The princess froze. For a moment, she could not speak. Her heart pounded. Every eye in the hall was upon her. Then, very slowly, she nodded. A faint smile touched her lips, the first smile she had shown all night. Gasps filled the chamber. Aliens shook their heads, muttering in shock and outrage. The curse had been challenged. The human had chosen to stay, and at that moment, the story of the tiny princess and the human man truly began. The hall did not cheer. It did not applaud. Instead, the silence deepened, heavy like a storm waiting to break. Eyes from across the galaxy fixed on Marcus, the lone human who dared stand beside the princess. Some looked with mockery, some with pity, but most with a sharp and hidden fear. The princess did not move at first. Her silver glass skin glimmered under the starlight of the chamber, her eyes wide with disbelief. She had expected rejection, cruelty, maybe even violence, but not this. Not someone who chose to stand. She lowered her gaze quickly, afraid her trembling hands would reveal too much. But Marcus noticed. He said nothing, only straightened his shoulders and remained at her side. From the shadows above, a voice rumbled, old and deep. "So, the human stays," said one of the galactic lords, a being with molten eyes and a crown made of fire. His laugh was slow and cruel. "Perhaps humans are too young, too foolish to understand what they invite upon themselves." Another ruler, a beast with tusks curved like swords, growled in agreement. "The curse will devour him before long. Let him be a lesson." Their words rolled through the chamber like thunder. Marcus ignored them. He was focused only on the princess, who dared at last to lift her head. Her lips moved in a whisper, so quiet only he could hear. "Why?" she asked. Marcus's voice was calm, his answer simple. "Because you asked." For a heartbeat, her eyes softened. No one had ever spoken to her that way, not as a ruler, not as a curse, but as a person. But the chamber was not done with them. Suddenly, a figure strode forward, tall and sharp, his armor glittering like blades. He was one of the alien suitors who had rejected her earlier, but now his face burned with fury. "You dare defy the wisdom of the galaxy?" He barked at Marcus. "You stand with this cursed child, knowing it means death?" His hand dropped to the weapon at his side. "Then you are no man. You are prey." The chamber stirred. Gasps echoed. Some rulers leaned forward, eager for violence. The curse was one thing, but a human challenging the order of the stars, that was something they had never imagined. Marcus did not flinch. He met the alien's glare with steady eyes. "Funny," he said. "I was thinking the same about you." The alien snarled, his weapon half drawn. But before he could strike, a voice sharper than steel cut across the air. "Enough." It was the princess. The hall froze. Even the lords grew silent. The tiny figure at the center stood tall, her voice firm despite the tremor beneath it. "You all call me cursed," she said, her words echoing like crystal breaking. "You all whisper that doom follows me. But tell me, are you afraid of me, or of what I carry?" The chamber stirred uncomfortably. None spoke. The princess's eyes narrowed. "You rejected me not because I am weak. You rejected me because you are cowards. You fear the truth of my bloodline. You fear what my people still hold." Marcus's eyes flickered. He caught it then, the sharpness in her tone, the weight in her words. There was something hidden here, something deeper than curses and whispers. The lords shifted uneasily. The molten-eyed king finally said, "Your people are ashes. Your throne is dust. There's nothing left worth fearing." But Marcus heard the lie. The man's voice cracked on the word ashes, the way his hands tightened, the way his gaze flicked toward the princess, and then a way it betrayed him. The puzzle pieces slid together. The curse was not real. The fear was real. Marcus spoke slowly, his words cutting through the chamber like a knife. "They're not afraid of you being cursed. They're afraid of what you can do." The hall erupted into chaos. Voices clashed, some denying, some shouting threats. The rulers demanded silence, demanded Marcus be removed. But the truth had already slipped free into the open air. The princess looked at him then, not with disbelief, not with fear, but with something else. Hope. For the first time in her life, someone had seen through the web of lies. The alien with the blade lunged forward, fury in his face. But Marcus moved before anyone expected. With no weapon in hand, only raw instinct, he stepped into the attack, caught the alien's wrist, and twisted sharply. The weapon clattered to the floor. Gasps thundered across the chamber. Marcus leaned close, his voice low. "Try that again, and you'll regret it." The alien stumbled back, stunned. He had expected weakness, cowardice, but the human had fought with speed and precision. The lords were no longer laughing. They were watching, eyes narrowed, their fear deepening. The princess stood taller, her heart racing. For the first time, she did not feel small. She did not feel alone. The hall ended with no cheers, no alliances, no promises. Only whispers spreading like fire. A human had accepted the cursed princess outside. As Marcus walked beside her through the long halls of the Star Palace, he finally asked the question that burned in his chest. "What is it?" He said quietly. "What are you hiding from them?" The princess stopped, her silver eyes reflecting the galaxy beyond the window. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, the lights above flickered, and the sound of distant alarms began to echo. The answer would have to wait. The alarm echoed through the palace like the cry of a wounded beast. Red lights bled into the silver walls, and the once grand corridors turned into tunnels of shadow and warning. The princess froze, her eyes flashing with sudden fear. Marcus stepped closer, his hand already curling into a fist, his gaze darting around for threats. The sound was clear: an attack. The palace guards, tall figures in gleaming armor, rushed down the corridors with weapons ready. But Marcus noticed their hesitation. Their movements were not sharp, not loyal. They looked around nervously, as though waiting for something or someone. The princess whispered under her breath, her voice sharp, "It begins sooner than I thought." "What begins?" Marcus demanded, keeping his voice low as they moved quickly through the hall. "They will not let me leave alive," she said. "The rulers. They want me gone. If I die now, my empire dies with me, and they will divide what is left among themselves." Marcus felt the weight of her words settle like stone in his chest. So it was true, this was no curse. This was a plot, and the galaxy itself was hunting her. The alarms grew louder. Through the windows, Marcus saw flashes of light in the black sky. Ships sleek and deadly were circling the palace like vultures. Their weapons glowed with energy. Whoever had come for her was not small. This was no single assassin or mercenary band. This was war. They reached a junction in the corridor. Two guards blocked their path. Their weapons pointed not at invaders but at the princess. Marcus stopped cold. The princess stared, shock flashing across her face. The guards did not speak. Their silence said everything. "Move," Marcus growled, his voice dark. The guards stood firm. But Marcus saw their hands tremble. He knew fear when he saw it. Not fear of him, but fear of what would happen if they disobeyed their masters. The princess's voice broke through the tension. "Please, I was your heir once. I am still your blood." One guard hesitated, his eyes flickering with guilt. The other did not. His finger tightened on the trigger. Before the shot could fire, Marcus moved. He lunged forward, slamming his shoulder into the nearest guard. The weapon went off, a burst of light striking the wall, leaving a glowing wound in the metal. Sparks rained down. Marcus grabbed the second guard's weapon and ripped it free with raw force. The man stumbled back, stunned by the unexpected strength. Without pausing, Marcus swung the weapon like a club, sending the first guard crashing to the floor. The corridor filled with smoke and chaos. The princess stared, wide-eyed, as Marcus stood between her and the fallen guards, his chest heaving. "They weren't going to let us through," Marcus said flatly. She swallowed hard, then nodded. Together they ran, boots striking against the floor in a rhythm of desperation. As they turned a corner, the walls shook. A blast rocked the palace, and distant screams echoed through the chambers. The enemy had breached the defenses. Marcus gritted his teeth. "We can't stay here. Where's the way out?" The princess pointed ahead, her voice sharp but steady. "There's a hidden hangar below the east wing. A single vessel remains. It was meant for me. If I ever had to flee, then that's where we go," Marcus said, pushing forward. But nothing in the palace was simple anymore. Every step forward felt like a trap waiting to spring as they descended the stairways. Marcus noticed the princess slowing. Her breaths came shorter, her body trembling. She was smaller than him, fragile, and the fear in her eyes was clear. "Stay with me," Marcus urged. She forced herself to keep moving. I cannot let them see me weak." "You're not weak," Marcus said, his voice low, firm. "Weak people run. You're still here." The words steadied her. Just enough. They reached the east wing, the air heavy with smoke and heat. The hangar doors loomed ahead, massive and sealed. Marcus pushed the control panel, but the lights flickered red. Locked. The princess stepped forward, pressing her hand against the panel. The machine responded to her touch, scanning her bloodline. With a heavy groan, the doors began to open. The sight beyond made Marcus's heart pound. A sleek, silver ship rested in the hangar, its engines humming faintly. Their way out, but between them and the ship stood a new line of enemies. Not palace guards this time, mercenaries. Their armor was scarred and black, their faces hidden beneath helmets. Their weapons gleamed with killing light. One stepped forward, his voice cold through the mask. "Orders are clear. The princess dies here. The human too." Marcus glanced at the princess. Her face was pale but resolute. She whispered, almost to herself, "So this is how it ends." Marcus shook his head. "No, this is where it begins." The mercenaries raised their weapons. Marcus moved first. He charged into the line of fire, using speed and instinct, weaving between shots. He slammed into the nearest mercenary, ripping the weapon from his grasp and firing it into another. The hangar lit up with fire and sparks. The princess ducked behind cover, her heart pounding as Marcus fought like a man possessed. The mercenaries were trained, but Marcus was unpredictable. He used every move like a brawler, striking low, hitting hard, never staying still. One by one, the mercenaries fell. At last, silence returned to the hangar. Bodies lay sprawled across the floor, smoke rising from broken weapons. Marcus stood in the middle, chest heaving, face streaked with sweat and ash. The princess rose slowly, her eyes wide with shock and something else, something close to awe. He walked back to her, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Let's get on that ship before more arrive." She nodded, her legs trembling as they climbed aboard. As the engines roared to life and the ship lifted from the hangar floor, Marcus took the controls, his eyes set on the dark horizon. Behind them, the palace burned. Ahead, the galaxy waited. And somewhere in the shadows, the secret that made the galaxy fear her still remained untold. The ship cut through the blackness of space, engines burning like streaks of fire against the stars. Inside the cabin, the hum of machinery filled the silence, broken only by the shallow breathing of the princess. She sat in the co-pilot's seat, her hands folded tight in her lap, her silver eyes staring out at the endless void. Marcus kept his hands steady on the controls. His jaw was tight, his eyes locked forward, but his mind burned with questions. The attack, the betrayal of the guards, the fear in the ruler's eyes, it all circled back to the same mystery. What was she hiding? Finally, he broke the silence. "They were terrified of you," he said quietly. "Not because of some curse, because of something real." "What is it?" The princess did not answer at once. Her gaze stayed fixed on the stars, her voice a whisper when it came. "If I tell you, you will regret staying with me." "I'll decide that," Marcus said firmly. For a long moment, she hesitated. Then, as though a heavy door inside her had opened, she spoke. "My empire was not only rich in land and fleets," she said slowly. "We carried something far more dangerous, a secret weapon, created by my ancestors long before I was born. It was not a bomb, not a ship. It was knowledge, knowledge that could unmake armies, topple rulers, and bend the galaxy itself." Her voice trembled, though she fought to keep it strong. "The knowledge is in my blood. It is coded into my very genes. Only I carry it now. That is why they call me cursed. That is why they fear me. Not because I bring death, but because I can decide it." Marcus stared at her. The pieces slid together with cold clarity. The lords had not wanted her cursed. They had wanted her powerless. If she died, the knowledge would die too, and the galaxy would remain theirs to control. "And you?" he asked. "Do you want to use it?" Her silver eyes met his, sharp and haunted. "I don't want power. I only want my people to live. But the moment anyone knows what I carry, I stop being a person. I become a weapon they all want to control or destroy." Marcus sat back silent. He had fought wars back on Earth, small compared to this, but he knew the truth of her words. Power like that never stayed hidden. The ship jolted suddenly. Warning lights flared across the controls. Marcus gripped the handles, pulling the ship into a sharp turn. We're being tracked. The stars outside shifted as beams of light cut across the darkness. Enemy ships, smaller and faster, closing in like wolves. They will never stop. The princess whispered. Then we don't give them the chance, Marcus growled, pushing the engines harder. The ship screamed as it sped forward, weaving through the hail of fire. But the enemy was relentless. Explosions shook the hull. The princess clung to her seat, her voice trembling. We cannot outrun them forever. Marcus's eyes narrowed. We don't need forever. Just long enough. He dived the ship into an asteroid field. The black rocks loomed like giants, spinning slowly in the void. Enemy fire followed, smashing into the stones, sending fragments flying. Marcus twisted the ship through narrow gaps, metal scraping against rock. Every move a gamble between survival and death. The enemy ships followed, but their speed became their weakness. One clipped an asteroid and exploded in a burst of fire. Another crashed into the fragments, shattering to dust. Marcus grinned grimly. Let the rocks fight for us. By the time the ship burst free of the asteroid belt, only one pursuer remained. Marcus hit the thrusters hard, spinning the vessel in a sudden roll. The enemy overshot, and Marcus fired the ship's rear cannons. The blast tore through the pursuer, scattering it into burning fragments. Silence returned. Only the hum of the engines remained. The princess let out a breath she had been holding. Her hands trembled against the seat. Marcus glanced at her. She looked pale, but her eyes were steady. You should have left me, she said softly. Every star we cross, every planet we touch, you will carry my burden. Do you understand what that means? Marcus leaned back in the pilot's chair, his voice calm but unshakable. I understand enough. You asked me to stay, and I'm not walking away. Her eyes widened slightly, her lips parting as though she wanted to speak. But no words came. For the first time in her life, someone had chosen her not for power, not for empire, not for gain just because she asked. She looked away, hiding the heat in her cheeks. Then I pray you are as strong as you think. The ship drifted on deeper into the darkness of space. But Marcus knew this was only the beginning. They had escaped the palace, survived the mercenaries, outrun the hunters, but the galaxy itself would not let go so easily. Somewhere in the stars, rulers were already gathering fleets, whispering their fears, sharpening their knives. The secret of her bloodline was worth wars, worth destruction, worth any price. Marcus tightened his grip on the controls. Whatever came next, he would face it, because for the first time, he felt it clearly. This was no longer her fight alone. It was his to dot, and somewhere in the quiet between stars, he thought he saw her glance at him. Her silver eyes filled with something new. Not fear, not sorrow, but the faintest spark of trust. The ship drifted into a quiet sector of space, far from trade routes and watchful fleets. A broken moon hung nearby, its surface scarred with ancient craters, a silent witness to forgotten wars. Marcus guided the vessel toward the shadow of the moon, powering down the engines until only a faint hum remained. For the first time since they fled, silence surrounded them. The princess sat still, her silver eyes scanning the stars, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She had not spoken since she revealed the secret of her bloodline, and Marcus did not push her. He knew the weight she carried was enough without his questions. But the silence did not last. A soft chime echoed from the ship's console, a signal. Marcus's brow furrowed as he read the display. A transmission, encrypted, bearing the royal seal of her people. The princess leaned forward, surprise flashing in her eyes. It's one of ours, she whispered. A loyalist, Marcus frowned. Or a trap, her gaze flickered, but she shook her head. No, that code is ancient, from before the empire fell. Only someone who served my family could know it. Against his instinct, Marcus allowed the transmission through. A figure appeared in flickering blue light, an older alien with skin like weathered stone, and eyes heavy with sorrow. My princess, the figure said, bowing deeply. By the stars, you live. Many of us thought you lost. Her voice broke with relief. General Kale. Marcus studied the hologram carefully. The man's face carried truth, but his gut twisted with caution. Kale continued, you are hunted. I know. The galaxy conspires to see your line ended. But all is not lost. A hidden base remains, a sanctuary for the last of our kind. Come to us. Together, we can rise again." The princess's eyes shone with hope. For the first time since Marcus met her, she looked almost alive. Marcus crossed his arms. "Coordinates." Cale provided them, his voice firm. "But be swift. Enemies move faster than shadows. You will not be safe for long." The transmission ended, leaving the cabin silent once again. Marcus leaned back, his face hard. Could be real, could be bait. Either way, they'll expect you to go. The princess touched her chest, where her heartbeat raced beneath fragile skin. "He was loyal once. If even a fragment of his army remains, we could rebuild. My people could live again." Marcus studied her. The hope in her eyes was sharp and fragile, like glass. He knew what hope could do. It made people brave, but it also made them blind. "We'll go," he said finally. "But we stay sharp. Trust no one until they earn it." The ship set its course. Hours later, the sanctuary came into view, a hidden outpost carved into the side of an asteroid. Its walls were patched, its shields weak, but lights glowed from within. Ships small, scarred, old drifted near the docks. The princess pressed her hand to the glass. "My people," she whispered. They landed inside the hangar. Soldiers rushed forward, their uniforms worn but familiar. They bowed as the princess stepped down, tears in their eyes. "She lives," one whispered. "The bloodline survives." For a brief moment, it seemed real. A home, safety, a chance to breathe. But Marcus felt it the moment they entered the hall. The air was wrong. Too heavy, too tense. Soldiers bowed, but their eyes lingered too long. Their movements were sharp, rehearsed. Not the joy of loyal followers, but the precision of men waiting for orders. At the center of the hall stood General Cale. He looked older than his hologram. His body bent, but his voice still carried iron. "Princess, you have returned." She moved toward him with open arms, her voice thick with emotion. "General, I thought I had lost everyone." But Marcus stayed back, watching Cale's eyes. There was no warmth there, only calculation. Cale stepped forward and took her hand. "You carry the hope of our people. And more than that, you carry the key." Marcus's stomach tightened. The princess blinked. "The key." Cale's grip tightened on her hand. "The knowledge in your blood. The weapon your ancestors left us. With it, we will not only survive, we will rule. The galaxy itself will kneel." The words echoed like thunder. Soldiers around them straightened, weapons glinting in the light. The princess froze. Her lips parted in shock. "No, that knowledge is not for conquest. It was meant to protect." Cale's voice hardened. "Protection is weakness. Power is survival." Marcus stepped forward, his voice cutting through the hall. "So this is it. Not loyalty, not sanctuary. Just another vulture waiting to tear her apart." Cale's eyes turned cold. "Human, you do not understand what stands before you. With her blood, we can build an empire greater than before. Why waste it on mercy?" The princess pulled her hand free, her voice shaking but sharp. "Because mercy is what makes us more than monsters." The hall grew tense. Soldiers raised their weapons, aimed at Marcus and the princess. Marcus's eyes scanned the room. Outnumbered, outgunned but not out. His jaw tightened. "Guess this is our first real test together." The princess's heart raced, but she stood tall beside him. For the first time, she did not feel alone. Cale lifted his hand, ready to give the order. Marcus whispered to her without looking away from the soldiers. "When I move, stay close. And whatever happens, don't lose hope." The moment stretched thin, every breath a countdown. Then Cale's hand dropped. The hall exploded into chaos. The moment General Cale's hand dropped, the soldiers opened fire. Bolts of burning light ripped across the hall, striking walls and pillars, sending sparks showering into the air. The princess froze for half a second, her silver eyes wide in terror. Marcus didn't hesitate. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her down behind a broken pillar, the blast scorching the stone above them. "Move." Marcus barked, his voice steady even as chaos thundered around them. The princess stumbled after him, her heart pounding so hard she thought her chest would break. She had dreamed of safety here, dreamed of loyal faces welcoming her back. Instead, she found betrayal sharper than any blade. Marcus scanned the hall quickly. Too many enemies, too many guns. But he had survived worse by trusting his instincts, not the odds. He picked up a fallen weapon, its grip unfamiliar, its weight heavy in his hands. He looked at her, his eyes burning. "Stay close. Don't think. Just move when I move." She nodded, though her body shook. They darted between columns as blasts of energy chased them. Soldiers shouted orders, their voices hard with discipline. Kale stood at the far end, watching with eyes like stone, his face twisted with hunger for power. "You cannot run forever, Princess," he called, his voice booming over the battle. "Your blood belongs to us. The galaxy will bow, and you will either rule at my side or be nothing." Her voice trembled as she shouted back, "I will never be your weapon." Marcus fired a shot, striking a soldier who had gotten too close. The man fell with a cry, and Marcus kept moving, dragging her toward a side passage. But more soldiers poured in, cutting off the escape. The princess's breath caught. Trapped. Marcus's mind raced. No way out. Not through numbers. Not through fire. Unless his eyes snapped upward. A vent shaft above, half broken from earlier blasts. Barely wide enough. But wide enough. Up there. He muttered. The princess looked, her eyes wide. "I can't climb, you can. Or we die here." He boosted her upward, her small body slipping into the shaft as blasts seared past. She pulled herself in, her hands raw and trembling. Marcus followed, gritting his teeth as he hauled himself up. Shots struck the wall beneath his boots, heat scorching his legs. But then they were inside, crawling through darkness, the echoes of shouts and fire below them. The shaft carried them far, until at last they dropped into another chamber. This one was smaller, filled with fuel tanks and humming engines. The outpost's power core. The princess looked at him, her face pale. "What do we do?" Marcus studied the tanks, the glowing machinery, the fragile wires humming with unstable energy. His jaw tightened. "We make sure they never use this base against anyone again." Her eyes widened. "You mean to?" "Yes," he said firmly. "Blow it." Fear flickered in her gaze, but then, slowly, she nodded. "Then let me help." Together, they moved through the chamber, setting charges from fallen weapons, rerouting wires, forcing the unstable power to feed back into the core. Every second felt heavier, every breath shorter. The enemy would find them soon. Finally, Marcus pulled her toward a side hatch that led to the hangar. "We set the timer. 5 minutes. Let's go." They ran through the narrow corridors, the sound of pursuit growing closer. Soldiers shouted behind them, boots striking like thunder. The princess stumbled, nearly falling, but Marcus pulled her back to her feet. The hangar came into view. Their ship sat waiting, its silver hull gleaming faintly in the dim light. But guards stood around it, weapons raised. The princess gasped. "There are too many." Marcus's face hardened. "Not too many. Just enough." He raised the stolen weapon and fired without hesitation. The hangar erupted into chaos. Soldiers scrambled for cover, firing back, their blasts striking the floor near their feet. Marcus charged forward, weaving between shots, striking down one enemy after another with brutal precision. The princess followed close, her small frame darting behind crates, her eyes burning with determination. For once, she did not feel helpless. For once, she was fighting not with weapons, but with will. Together they reached the ramp of the ship. Marcus fired one last shot, sending the final guard crumpling to the floor. Then they scrambled aboard, sealing the hatch behind them. The engines roared to life as enemy fire rattled against the hull. Marcus slammed the controls, lifting the ship into the black void just as the timer reached 0. The explosion ripped through the asteroid like a dying star. The outpost shattered, fragments burning as they tumbled into space. Enemy ships nearby were torn apart in the blast, consumed by fire and debris. The princess stared out the window, her chest rising and falling in quick gasps. Tears glimmered in her eyes, not of sorrow, but of something new. "They were my people once," she whispered, "but they chose power over loyalty." Marcus glanced at her, his voice steady. "Then they weren't your people." "Not anymore." She turned toward him, her silver eyes shimmering. "And you? Why do you stay? You could leave, run, save yourself." Marcus's hands tightened on the controls, his gaze hard on the stars ahead. "Because I don't run. Not from enemies, not from danger, and not from you." Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked away quickly, hiding the warmth in her cheeks. But deep inside, she felt something she had never allowed herself before: trust. Behind them, the outpost was gone. But ahead, the storm only grew darker. The galaxy had seen the humans stand with the princess. Fleets would come. Armies would march. Betrayals would rise. And yet, for the first time, she believed they had a chance. Not because she carried the blood of empires, but because beside her stood a man who refused to bend, a man who turned fear into fire. The galaxy was coming for them. Marcus welcomed it. The stars ahead burned like cold fire. Space stretched endless, but Marcus knew there was no place left to run. The destruction of the outpost had sent a signal across the galaxy. Every ruler who had rejected the princess now had reason to hunt her harder. She was no longer only a symbol of fear, she was a spark of rebellion. The ship's sensors screamed with warnings. Fleets closed in from every direction. Massive dreadnoughts, swarms of fighters, whole armadas blotting out the stars. The galaxy had come to crush one fragile vessel, one fragile princess, and the single human who refused to leave her side. The princess sat in silence, staring at the display. Her silver glass skin glowed faintly in the dim light, her hands folded tight in her lap. She had always known it would end like this. Alone, surrounded, a target for powers greater than herself. But this time, she was not alone. Marcus stood at the controls, his eyes calm, his shoulders steady. He looked at the impossible wall of ships ahead as if it were nothing more than another obstacle. They think they've already won, he muttered. The princess's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. We can't fight them all, no, Marcus said. But we can show them why they should never have underestimated us. The enemy hailed them. The screen flickered, and the molten-eyed king appeared, his face twisted in triumph. The galaxy has no place for your cursed blood, he declared. You will die here, and the human with you will vanish into dust. Surrender, and I may grant you a swift end. The princess rose to her feet, her small frame trembling, but her eyes sharp as steel. I will not surrender, she said, her voice carrying across the channel. I am not cursed. I am not broken. And I am not alone. Marcus cut the transmission and pushed the engines to full power. The ship shot forward, diving straight into the heart of the fleet. Enemy fire lit up the void, streaks of burning light tearing past them. Marcus weaved the ship between blasts, his hands moving faster than thought, his body acting on instinct. The princess clung to the seat beside him, her heart racing as the ship rolled and twisted through the chaos. But no matter how fast they moved, the enemy closed in. Too many ships, too many guns. The princess closed her eyes, the weight of her blood pressing down on her. The knowledge hidden inside her called out, tempting her to release it, to unlock the code that could shatter fleets, destroy worlds, bend the galaxy to her will. She could end it all in a heartbeat. But if she did, she would become the very weapon they feared. Her voice broke. Marcus, if I use what I carry, I won't be me anymore. I'll be a monster. Marcus's voice cut through the storm hard and steady. Then you don't need that power. You've got something better. Her eyes opened, meeting his. What? Me? The word struck her deeper than any weapon. The enemy ships closed in, preparing their final strike. Marcus slammed the controls and pulled the ship into a steep dive, cutting between two cruisers so close their hulls scraped against his. The princess gasped, but Marcus only grinned. He flew not like a soldier, not like a machine, but like a human, unpredictable, reckless, alive. Enemy fighters pursued, but he twisted the ship into maneuvers they never expected, forcing them to crash into each other, into their own fleets. Chaos rippled across the armada. Still, the numbers were endless. For every ship that fell, 10 more rose. The princess gripped the console, her voice breaking. We can't hold them forever. Marcus's eyes burned with defiance. We don't need forever. We just need one moment. The ship raced toward the heart of the fleet, toward the massive dreadnought that commanded the armada. The molten-eyed king waited within, his power absolute. Destroy that, and the galaxy would remember this day forever. Enemy fire hammered the hull. The ship groaned, sparks flying from the panels. Systems failed one after another. But Marcus never slowed. He aimed the nose of the ship directly at the dreadnought's core. The princess realized what he meant to do. Her eyes widened. No, "Marcus, if we strike it like this, we won't survive." He looked at her then, his face calm, his voice steady. "You asked me to stay. This is what staying means." Her breath caught. Tears burned in her eyes. "I don't want to lose you." Marcus smiled faintly. "Then don't. Remember me not as someone who ran but as someone who chose you." The dreadnought loomed larger, its weapons glowing, ready to obliterate them. But at the last second, Marcus pulled a maneuver no one expected. Instead of crashing, he flipped the ship sideways, skimming along the dreadnought's surface, and fired directly into the exposed vents of its core. The blast tore through the giant ship, ripping it apart from the inside. The explosion lit the void brighter than a sun. The enemy fleet faltered. Their leader was gone, their command shattered. Panic rippled across their lines. Some fled, some froze. The princess stared in awe, her tears falling freely. Marcus sat back, his chest heaving, his face streaked with sweat and smoke. "Told you." One moment was all we needed. The galaxy watched as the impossible happened. The cursed princess had not brought ruin, she had brought defiance. And the human beside her had shown that even the smallest world could stand against empires. As silence returned, the princess reached out and took Marcus's hand. Her voice was soft but unshakable. "Every alien rejected me. Every ruler feared me. But you stayed. And because of that, we live." Marcus squeezed her hand gently, his eyes still locked on the stars. "Then let's make sure the galaxy never forgets it." The stars stretched endless before them, filled with danger, filled with war. But for the first time, the princess did not see them as enemies. She saw them as hers to claim, not through fear, not through power, but through hope. And at her side, a human man smiled into the void, ready to face whatever came next.